In today's episode, we look at what dealers can do when manufacturers push for purity, what the conflict between Russia and Ukraine could mean for North American equipment sales, the impact high milk prices will have on ag equipment sales, the shift from aftermarket sales to OEM sales for precision equipment, and the latest financial results from dealer groups Rocky Mountain and Service Equipment. I'm Kim Schmidt, Managing Editor. Welcome to On the Record. On February 21st, we reported on Case IH's push for brand purity during its dealer meeting earlier this year, during which the company listed 7 short-line equipment brands they wanted their dealers to drop. Jeff Flora, CEO of the Southwestern Association, says they've received a number of calls from dealers. Some have expressed concern while others weren't too fazed by Case IH's dictate. Flora noted that to this point, Case IH has done nothing beyond the initial suggestion.
Right now, from my standpoint, it's again, it was a speech that was made. I wasn't at the meeting, but based on what I've heard from the dealers, there's mixed emotions and different opinions by our members that I've talked to. And again, I've probably talked to, I suppose, 12 to 15 dealers in our territory, and mixed signals on the part of those dealers about kind of what they heard and what their expectations, what they sense their expectations are from the company.
However, he says in situations like this, the topic will likely come up for dealers in every conversation they have with their territory managers. For those who have concerns, Flora says in states his association serves, there are laws in place to protect the dealer. As long as dealers are meeting the requirements set by manufacturers, they are legally allowed to carry multiple brands. As tensions grow surrounding the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, it could spell trouble for the North American ag equipment industry. History shows that economic sanctions seldom work. The 1980 grain embargo by the U.S. didn't halt Soviet aggression in Afghanistan, but it did have a devastating impact on the whole U.S. ag industry, including dealers. Charlie Gauss, retired Vice President of Marketing for John Deere, estimates 50% of all farm equipment dealers in the early 1980s went out of business, including nearly 30% of John Deere dealers. Vernon Schmidt, Executive Vice President of the Farm Equipment Manufacturers Association, says while the situation is different, there are lessons to be learned.
Yeah, I don't think it's the same situation, but I think it certainly shows how things can escalate and how very unintended consequences can occur. And I think agriculture is one of the first people in line to get hurt.
Schmidt adds if there's not enough peace in the region for farmers to plant crops, they likely won't be buying equipment either, which will have a big impact on farm equipment manufacturers looking to expand into new markets such as Ukraine. While corn and wheat prices are expected to fall, milk and beef prices are at record high levels. However, it's yet to be seen what sort of impact this could have on machinery sales. Joseph Glauber, chief economist with the USDA, said in a speech that dairy margins are expected to stay above $8 per hundredweight for all of 2014. Dairy product prices have been at or near record levels due in part to strong demand for U.S. dairy products, in particular cheese and butter. He says dairy exports have shown remarkable growth over the past 5 years and are expected to grow further over the next 10 years. Steer and milk prices are both forecast at record levels in 2014. Jim Summer, president of Service Motor Company, a Case IH dealer with 6 locations in Wisconsin, says the high prices may have little impact on machinery sales. Most dairy operations wait to make their purchases until the end of the year, but the lack of tax incentives this year may stop some from buying equipment, he says. The weather will also have an impact. In areas that had wet and snowy winters, it will depend on when spring planting can take place. If everything is a month behind due to the weather and late planting, Summer says dairy farmers may be less likely to purchase machinery.
The higher milk prices now sounds positive, but there's too many unknowns to know that to make them feel good yet. Now, if you asked us this question in June, after the crops are in the ground, that the hay is growing, they're feeling more confident on how the year is. The second half of the year could be good if they have cash flow, if they have extra money where they can be upgrading equipment. But at this point in time, they don't know, and we don't know.
Ag Junction and Raven both saw overall revenues grow in the fourth quarter of 2013. For Ag Junction, revenues for its Ag segment increased by 37% versus the fourth quarter 2012. However, Raven's Applied Technology segment was down 5% due to lower aftermarket demand in both the U.S. and Canada. Both companies noted a shift from aftermarket to OEM sales. Fourth quarter OEM sales for Ag Junction jumped 120% versus the same period in 2012. Raven CEO and President Daniel Rikis says, on the OEM front, demand continued to rise for certain products, including our advanced field computers, planter and seeder controls, boom controls, and application controls. Ag Junction CEO and President Rick Heiniger also made note of the shift and said, they are working closely with their current and new OEM partners to support the trend. As more equipment continues to come precision equipped, it will be increasingly more important for precision farming dealers to shift their focus from equipment and hardware sales to service packages. Publicly held Canadian dealership groups Rocky Mountain Equipment and Service Equipment both released their fourth quarter earnings report during the week of March 10th. While Rocky Mountain posted a 4% gain in overall sales for 2013, its fourth quarter numbers took a hit as the dealer group focused on reducing equipment inventories and its construction equipment segment continued to falter. Ben Chernievsky, an analyst with Raymond James, says, despite the sales shortfall, the main reason for Rocky's earning miss was weak gross margin performance as the chickens came home to roost with the mounting problems of inflated inventory. He adds, specifically aggressive pricing discounting affected a consolidated gross margin of 11.4%, considerably below our 14.5% forecast. Service equipment saw a 23% jump in revenues for 2013, but margin pressures pushed net profits down by 1.3% for the year. Despite the strong sales showing, gross margins fell to 18.1% for the year from 19% in 2012. According to the company, the decrease was primarily a result of margin pressure in the agricultural segment. And now from the Ag Equipment Archives, we go back to 1972, when Vermeer designed and introduced a modern baler to produce big round bales. The first model formed a 6-foot wide by 7-foot diameter bale that weighed more than a ton. If you have suggestions on stories you'd like to see covered, send me an email at kschmidt@lespub.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.